My mom announced a family dinner to corner me into donating my kidney, then told me, I'm just trying to hold this family together while my youngest is dying and my oldest is, well, I don't know what you're doing. When I told her I needed time, she rolled her eyes. I walked away. That was 8 weeks ago. Now she's choking on the silence she used to weaponize. My mom has always been the type of person who needed everything to look perfect. Family photos had to match the holiday theme, school projects had to be done her way so they wouldn't embarrass us. And if I ever had an opinion that didn't line up with hers, she'd find a way to twist it into something selfish or ungrateful. The worst part was how she made it sound like love. When I was 16, I had this audition for a pre-college music program. I had been practicing nonstop, but the day before the audition, she scheduled a family photo shoot without telling me. When I brought it up, she just smiled and said we could reschedule the audition, but the photo session was important because we hadn't had a nice family picture in years. She always operated with a smile and under the excuse of doing what's best. After that, I stopped playing for a long time. I ended up going into teaching like she wanted. I told myself it was a smart move, that I'd always have job security, but deep down, it felt like I gave up something big just to avoid disappointing her again. So by the time I was 26 and got the call about my sister Mia needing a kidney transplant, all of those memories were sitting right under the surface. My dad called first to tell me I was a perfect match. Then my mom called and said, "You'll do it, right? You're her sister. You'll save her." I knew it was an expectation she was holding over my head, just like always. I didn't say anything, and that pause was all it took for my mom to switch her manipulation tactic. She started talking faster, about how Mia was scared, and how this could bring the family closer again. She said people in the community would be proud of me, and when I still didn't say anything, she ended the call with, "You better not make this difficult." That line stayed with me, so much so that I drove home that weekend. The whole house was tense when I got there. Mia was quiet, but hopeful. My dad was trying to act normal, and my mom was already treating me like I had agreed to everything. She paraded me around town that day, introducing me to people as the one who was going to save Mia's life. She told family friends I was stepping up because that's what big sisters do. She even said, "We always knew Rachel had a big heart." I tried to smile, but it just felt like she was twisting my arm in front of everyone. When we got back home, Mia took me to her room and asked me if I was scared. I told her I wasn't scared of the surgery. I was scared of everything around it. I obviously wanted to be there for her, but I couldn't bear being back in the house. Then came the family meeting. My mom said she wanted us all to sit down and talk like adults, but really, it was just a chance for her to control the narrative. She talked about how the arrangement would work, how long I'd stay there, how brave Mia was. Then she turned to me and said, "Rachel, I told the hospital you're ready to move forward." I looked at my dad, hoping he'd say something, but he just kept his eyes on the table, as he usually did. I finally spoke up and said I hadn't made a final decision yet. My mom's entire face shifted. Her voice got quieter but sharper. She said she didn't understand what I needed to think about, that there wasn't anything more important than family. And then she said, "I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like your needs were more important than anyone else's." That's when I knew she hadn't changed. I stood up and told her I needed space. I said that I wasn't going to be pressured into something this serious without being allowed to feel like a person. That night, I sat in my childhood bedroom and cried harder than I had in years. The next day, I called Dr. Clark, Mia's doctor. I asked if I could come in and talk privately. I told her everything, and by the end of it, she validated my feelings. She said I wasn't the first donor who had to weigh more than just medical risks. I told her I wasn't saying no. I just couldn't say yes while it felt like I was being pushed into it for the wrong reasons. She nodded and said, "When you're ready, and only when you're ready." The thing that broke me happened a week later. My mom had been calling Dr. Clark's office all morning trying to find out where I was. Apparently, the receptionist had mentioned I had an appointment. Mom was furious that I'd gone behind her back to talk to the doctor. "What did you tell her?" she demanded, following me up the stairs. "Did you tell her you're not doing it? Do you have any idea how that makes us look?" There it was again, how things looked. Not how Mia felt, not how I felt, but how our family appeared to others. I ignored her and went to find Mia, who was resting in her room. Mia looked worse than she had the day before. The dark circles under her eyes had deepened, and she winced when she shifted position in bed. Seeing her like that broke my heart. This was my little sister, the same girl who used to sneak into my room during thunderstorms because she was scared. I sat with her for a while, just talking about normal stuff, TV shows she was watching, gossip about people we knew from elevated school. It felt good to connect with her as a person, not just as a potential organ donor. Eventually, I brought up the transplant. "I want you to know that I love you," I told her, "and I want to help you, but I need to do this on my terms, not Mom's." Mia squeezed my hand. "I know. She's been impossible since I got diagnosed. Everything has to be her way, on her timeline." She paused, then added, "But I am running out of time, Rach." The reality of her situation hit me hard. While I was wrestling with my mom's manipulation, Mia was getting sicker every day. I promised her I would make a decision soon, but that I needed to sort some things out first. That evening, my mom announced that she'd invited our extended family over for dinner the next night. Aunts, uncles, cousins, people we only saw at holidays and funerals. She said it would be nice for everyone to see us together during this difficult time. I knew what she was doing. She was gathering an audience, creating a situation where it would be even harder for me to say no. I confronted her in the kitchen while she was making a grocery list for dinner. "You need to stop this," I said. "Stop trying to force my hand by involving more people." She looked up from her list, trying to look innocent. "What are you talking about? Family supports each other during crises. Everyone wants to see Mia and show their love. And parade me around as the reluctant donor?" I shot back. "Make me look like the bad guy if I need more time?" My mom put down her pen and gave me that loo, the one that made me feel about 2 inches tall. "If you're feeling guilty, Rachel, that's coming from you, not me. I'm just trying to hold this family together while my youngest daughter is dying and my oldest daughter is, well, I don't know what you're doing." I walked out before I said something I'd regret. The manipulation was so obvious, but she was so good at it. She knew exactly how to twist things to make me doubt myself. Had I always been this selfish? Was I overthinking everything? Maybe I should just do what she wanted and be done with it. I went for a long drive to clear my head. I ended up at my old elevated school, sitting pulling in the parking lot and staring at the building where I'd spent 4 years trying to be perfect. I remembered how I'd given up my music dreams, how I'd chosen a career that would please my mother, how I'd spent my whole life trying to avoid her disapproval, and now here I was, contemplating giving up a literal piece of myself. It wasn't that I didn't want to help Mia, I did, desperately, but I needed to do it as a choice, not as a submission. I called my friend Taylor, who'd known me since we were kids. She'd witnessed some of my mom's behavior firsthand over the years. When I explained the situation, she didn't hesitate. "Your mom is toxic, Rachel. She always has been. You know that, right?" Hearing someone else say it out loud was both shocking and validating. We talked for over an hour, with Taylor reminding me of incidents I'd normalized or forgotten, the time my mom had accidentally thrown away my art project because it didn't match our living room decor, the way she'd criticized my weight at every family gathering, how she'd intercepted college acceptance letters before I could see them. By the time I got back to my parents' house, it was late. The house was quiet since everyone was already in bed. I went to my room and pulled out my diary from my dresser, itching to write about what happened. I had always done that since I couldn't involve Mia in my drama, and my dad was useless in standing up to her. And forget about asking for therapy. Mom would think I'd gone insane and send me off to live overseas so that I wouldn't ruin the family image. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I knew what I needed to do. I found Mia first before anyone else was up. I told her that I wanted to donate my kidney to her, but that I needed to set some boundaries with Mom first. Mia understood immediately. She hugged me tight and whispered, "Thank you." When my mom came downstairs, I was ready. I told her I wanted to speak with her privately. My dad hovered nearby, clearly anxious about a potential confrontation. "I've decided to be Mia's donor," I said, watching relief flood my mom's face. "But I have conditions." Her expression changed instantly. "Conditions? What do you mean conditions? This is your sister's life we're talking about." "I know exactly what we're talking about," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "And these are my terms. First, I'll be recovering at my own apartment, not here. Second, I'll be making all medical decisions with my doctors, not through you. Third, this dinner tonight is canceled. I'm not being put on display." My mom's face went through a series of emotions: shock, anger, calculation. She started to argue, but I cut her off. "This isn't a negotiation. These are my boundaries. If you can't respect them, then I'll still donate to Mia, but you won't be part of the process at all." My dad stepped forward then, surprising all of us. "She's right, Karen. This has to be Rachel's choice on her terms." My mom looked between us, clearly not used to being challenged by either of us. Finally, she nodded stiffly and said she would cancel the dinner. She didn't agree to my other terms explicitly, but it was a start. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of medical appointments and preparations. True to her nature, my mom tried to insert herself into every aspect of the process. She showed up at appointments I hadn't told her about. She called my doctors directly, trying to get information. She even contacted my principal again to help arrange my medical leave. Each time I had to reassert my boundaries. It was exhausting, but also empowering. For the first time in my life, I was standing up to her consistently. I wasn't backing down or giving in just to keep the peace. Mia noticed the change in me. One night, while we were having dinner alone at my apartment, a rare escape from our parents' house, she mentioned it. "You're different," she said. "Stronger somehow." I thought about it and realized she was right. The prospect of donating a kidney, something that had initially felt like another example of my mom controlling my body and my choices, had somehow become the catalyst for me finding my voice. "I guess I am," I replied. "I just wish it hadn't taken something this serious to make me stand up for myself." Mia smiled sadly. "Maybe after all this is over, I can learn how to do it too." The thing that broke me happened a week before the scheduled surgery. I'd been staying at my own place most of the time, coming to my parents' house only to check on Mia or for family meetings with the medical team. My mom had been surprisingly subdued, though I could tell she was just biding her time. I arrived at their house one afternoon to find my mom hosting what she called a small gathering of church friends. About 15 women were crammed into the living room, drinking tea and eating finger sandwiches. Mia was there too, looking uncomfortable and tired on the couch, surrounded by well-meaning but intrusive women asking personal questions about her condition. When I walked in, my mom's face lit up with that familiar performative smile. "Here she is," she announced to the room, "our hero." Before I could react, I was swarmed by women I barely knew, all wanting to touch me and tell me how brave and selfless I was. One older lady, Mrs. Peterson, actually put her hand on my abdomen and said, "This is where that special kidney is, the one God is using to save your sister." I backed away, feeling violated and angry. My mom had turned my medical decision into a spectacle, exactly what I'd asked her not to do. I looked for Mia and saw her mouthing, "I'm sorry," from across the room. She hadn't known about this either. I pulled my mom into the kitchen, away from her audience. "What is this?" I demanded. "I specifically asked you not to do things like this." She had the audacity to look confused. "It's just a few friends from church, Rachel. They wanted to support our family during this difficult time. Why are you always so sensitive?" "This isn't support," I said. "This is you putting on a show, using Mia's illness and my donation to get attention and sympathy." My mom's face hardened. "How dare you? After everything I've done for both of you. I'm just trying to celebrate your generosity and faith." "My faith?" I laughed bitterly. "Mom, I haven't been to church in years. You know that." "Well, maybe this experience will bring you back to God," she said, her voice taking on that righteous tone I knew so well. "Maybe that's why he's testing our family this way." I stared at her, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity what I'd always known but never fully acknowledged. My mother was incapable of seeing me as a separate person with my own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. To her, I was just an extension of herself, a character in the story she was telling about our family. "I'm leaving," I said quietly. "Tell your friends whatever you want, but I'm not participating in this." As I turned to go, she grabbed my arm. "You can't leave. What will people think?" There it was again, her constant concern with appearances. I pulled my arm away. "I don't care what they think. And for once in my life, I don't care what you think either." I walked out, ignoring the curious stares from the women in the living room. I got in my car and just drove, with no destination in mind. I ended up at a park about 20 minutes away, sitting on a bench and watching kids play on the swings. My phone kept buzzing with texts and calls from my mom, then from my dad, and finally from Mia. I only answered Mia's call. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice weak and tired. I told her I was fine, just needed some space. She told me most of the church ladies had left, embarrassed by the obvious family tension. My mom was in her bedroom with the door closed. I didn't didn't know she was planning that, Mia said. I would have warned you. I know, I assured her. This isn't your fault. We were quiet for a moment. Then Mia said something that hit me hard. Do you ever wonder what we would be like if we'd grown up with a different mom? Who we might have become? I had wondered that many times. Would I still be playing piano? Would I have pursued music professionally? Would Mia have found her own passions instead of rebelling against our mom's expectations? Would we have been closer as sisters without our mom's subtle competition, breeding between us? All the time, I admitted. But we can't change the past. We can only try to build a better future. After we hung up, I sat in that park until the sun started to set. I thought about what that better future might look like. I still wanted to donate my kidney to Mia. That hadn't changed. But I needed to protect myself from my mother's manipulation during the process and recovery. I called Dr. Clark again and explained what had happened. She listened patiently, then offered a solution I hadn't considered. We can arrange for you to recover in the hospital for longer than usual, she suggested. Medical reasons. And then perhaps a skilled nursing facility for a week or so after that. It would give you space from your family while you're most vulnerable. The relief I felt at this suggestion was enormous. The thought of recovering at my parents' house with my mom hovering over me, using my weakened state to reassert control, had been terrifying me. This was a legitimate medical alternative that would give me the space I needed. I thanked Dr. Clark profusely. She hesitated, then added, Rachel, have you considered talking to a therapist about your relationship with your mother? There are support groups for people with challenging family dynamics. I promised her I would look into it. The fact that a doctor who barely knew me could see the toxicity in my relationship with my mom so clearly was both validating and sobering. When I finally returned to my parents' house that evening, my dad met me at the door. He looked nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he used to do when I was a kid, and he had to deliver bad news. Your mom is very upset, he said quietly. She thinks you're being ungrateful and dramatic. I wasn't surprised. And what do you think, Dad? He looked startled by the direct question. I just want peace in the family. Peace isn't always the most important thing, I replied. Sometimes standing up for yourself matters more. He didn't have a response to that. He just stepped aside to let me in, his eyes fixed on the floor. I felt a mixture of pity and frustration toward him. He'd spent his entire marriage enabling my mother's behavior, choosing the path of least resistance over and over again. My mom was in the kitchen, aggressively cleaning the already spotless counters. She didn't look up when I entered. I could tell from the set of her shoulders that she was waiting for me to apologize. In the past, I would have found some way to take the blame, to smooth things over, to restore her vision of our perfect family. Not this time. I've made arrangements to recover in the hospital and then a care facility after the surgery, I said calmly. Dr. Clark has already approved it. My mom's hand stilled on the counter. That's ridiculous. You're coming home where I can take care of you. No, I'm not, I replied. This is what I need, and it's what I'm doing. She turned to face me then, her expression a mixture of anger and calculation. You went behind my back again? To talk to the doctor? About our family business? My medical care is my business, not family business, I pointed out. And yes, I talked to my doctor about what's best for me. My mom switched tactics, her voice softening. Rachel, honey, I know you're stressed about the surgery. It's normal to be afraid, but pushing away your family right now isn't the answer. We love you. We want to be there for you. It was such a skillful pivot that for a moment, I almost doubted myself again. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she really did just want to help. Then I remembered the church ladies, the way she'd paraded me around town, the years of control and manipulation disguised as love and protection. I held firm. My decision is made, I said. I'm donating my kidney to Mia because I love her and I want to help her, but I'm doing it on my terms. My mom's face hardened again. Fine, do what you want, but don't expect me to rearrange my life to visit you at some facility when you could be here at home. It was such a transparent attempt at emotional manipulation that I almost laughed. That's your choice, Mom, just like this is mine. I went upstairs to check on Mia after that. She was asleep, looking small and fragile in her bed. I sat beside her for a while, watching her breathe. Despite everything, I felt at peace with my decision to donate. This was for Mia, not for my mom, not for appearances, not for anyone else. The week before the surgery was tense. My mom alternated between cold silence and overly sweet concern, depending on who was around to witness it. My dad tried his usual peacekeeping tactics, suggesting compromises that always seemed to favor my mom's wishes. I held firm to my boundaries, which seemed to surprise and frustrate them both. I spent as much time as possible with Mia, who was getting weaker by the day. The dialysis was taking a toll on her body. She was tired all the time, barely eating, and her skin had taken on a grayish pallor that scared me. Seeing her deteriorate made me even more certain about my decision to donate. 3 days before the surgery, I moved temporarily into a hotel near the hospital. I told my parents I needed to be close by for some final tests, which was true, but mostly I needed space to center myself before the procedure. My mom was predictably upset, saying it was a waste of money and that I was being ridiculous. In the quiet of my hotel room, I did something I'd been putting off. I called Mrs. Yamamoto, my old piano teacher. We hadn't spoken in years, not since I'd stopped playing after the missed audition. She answered on the third ring, her voice exactly as I remembered it, warm, slightly accented, instantly comforting. I told her everything, about Mia, about the upcoming surgery, about the conflicts with my mom. I also apologized for disappearing from her life all those years ago, for giving up on music, for not having the courage to fight for what I loved. Mrs. Yamamoto listened without interrupting. When I finally ran out of words, she was quiet for a moment before responding. Rachel, she said gently, you were just a child. Children shouldn't have to fight their parents for the right to pursue their passions. That was not your failure. It was your mother's. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear those words until they brought tears to my eyes. We talked for over an hour, catching up on each other's lives. She was retired now, but still taught a few dedicated students. She invited me to visit her after I recovered from the surgery, maybe even play together if I felt up to it. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of interest in picking up my piano again, not to become the professional musician I once dreamed of being. That ship had sailed, but simply for the joy of it, for myself. The night before the surgery, my parents and Mia Mia came to the hospital for the final pre-op consultation. Mia would be admitted that night, while I would come in early the next morning. Dr. Clark went over the procedure again, explaining what each of us could expect. My mom was on her best behavior in front of the medical team, all smiles and appropriate questions, but I could see the tension in her jaw, the way her eyes kept darting to me when she thought I wasn't looking. She was still angry about my decision to recover away from home, still plotting how to regain control of the situation. After the consultation, Mia asked for some time alone with me. My parents went to the cafeteria, leaving us in the small consultation room. "Are you sure about this?" Mia asked once we were alone. "Not just the surgery, but everything else, standing up to mom, setting all these boundaries?" I nodded. "I've never been more sure of anything. This feels like the first real choice I've made in my life." Mia reached out and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you, and a little jealous, honestly. I wish I had your courage." "You do," I assured her. "You've just found different ways to cope with mom. Your rebellion was its own kind of bravery." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in our thoughts. Then Mia said something that surprised me. "After this is over, after we're both recovered, I think I want to move away. Start fresh somewhere mom can't control everything." I felt a surge of hope and excitement for her. "I think that would be good for you, for both of us really. Maybe we could even live in the same city," she suggested, a hint of her old mischievousness returning to her eyes. Far enough from mom to breathe, but close enough to each other to actually be sisters without her interference. The idea was appealing. Despite our complicated history, I loved Mia. I wanted a relationship with her that wasn't defined or controlled by our mother. "I'd like that," I said honestly. When our parents returned, they found us laughing together for the first time in years. My mom immediately wanted to know what was so funny, her tone suggesting she suspected we were laughing at her. We just shrugged and said it was nothing, sharing a secret smile that excluded her. It was a small moment of solidarity, but it felt significant. That night, back in my hotel room, I couldn't sleep. I was nervous about the surgery, of course, but also strangely excited about what lay beyond it. For the first time, I was seeing this medical crisis not just as a challenge to overcome, but as a potential turning point in my life. I was giving Mia a kidney, yes, but in the process, I was giving myself something too. The permission to live on my own terms, to set boundaries, to exist outside of my mother's carefully constructed narrative. The morning of the surgery arrived with a sense of inevitability. I checked into the hospital at 5:30 a.m., going through the familiar admission process. The staff was kind and efficient, explaining each step as they prepared me for the procedure. My parents arrived around 6:15, my mom carrying a large bag that I knew contained her hospital kit, hand sanitizer, extra tissues, snacks, and a notebook for keeping track of medical information. She'd always been prepared for emergencies, always ready to take charge in a crisis. In different circumstances, it might have been an admirable quality. As the nurses were getting me ready, my mom tried one last time to change my post-surgery plans. "I've set up your old room so nicely," she said, her voice honey, sweet. "New sheets, a TV tray for meals in bed, everything you'll need right at your fingertips. That facility won't give you the personal care I can provide." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the desperation behind her smile. She needed to be needed. She needed to be in control. And for perhaps the first time, I felt a flicker of compassion for her beneath my frustration. What must it be like to be so afraid of losing control that you manipulate and coerce the people you love? "I appreciate the thought," I said gently but firmly, "but my decision is made." Before she could respond, the surgical team arrived to take me to the operating room. As they wheeled me away, I caught a last glimpse of my parents, my dad looking worried but resigned, my mom's face a mask of controlled displeasure. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia took effect was thinking about Mia, who would be in her own operating room by now. I hoped that when we both woke up, it would be to the beginning of something new, not just a physical healing, but an emotional one too. I woke up in the recovery room feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Everything hurt, especially my abdomen where they'd taken my kidney. The nurses were super nice, checking on me constantly and giving me pain meds that made everything fuzzy around the edges. I was in and out of consciousness that first day, but I remember seeing my dad sitting by my bed at one point. He looked worried but gave me a small smile when he saw I was awake. "It went well," he told me. "Mia's body is accepting the kidney so far. No rejection signs." I nodded and drifted back to sleep. The relief I felt was overwhelming. All the drama with my mom aside, I really just wanted Mia to be okay. The next day, I was more alert. Dr. Clark came by to check on me and said everything looked good on my end too. I asked about Mia, and she confirmed what my dad had said. The transplant was going well so far. She seemed optimistic but cautious, which I appreciated. No false promises, just honest medical assessment. My mom showed up around noon. She brought flowers, magazines, and her fake cheerful attitude. She acted like our fight had never happened, chatting about neighbors who'd asked about us and church members who were praying. I was still too weak and drugged up to argue, so I just let her talk. She stayed for about an hour before a nurse came in to check my vitals, and my mom used that as an excuse to leave. I could tell she was uncomfortable in a situation she couldn't control. The next few days followed a similar pattern. I slowly got stronger, moving from the bed to a chair, and eventually taking short walks down the hallway with a nurse's help. My dad visited daily, usually alone. He'd sit quietly with me, sometimes reading a book he'd brought, sometimes just watching TV. It was nice, actually. Without my mom there directing everything, we found a comfortable silence I hadn't experienced with him before. Mia was recovering in a different wing of the hospital. She was doing well, but had a slightly harder recovery since her body was adjusting to a new organ. We texted each other constantly, sending stupid memes and complaining about hospital food. It felt like we were actually connecting as sisters for the first time in years. My mom's visits became less frequent. As it became clear I wasn't going to change my mind about the recovery facility, she'd show up every other day, stay for exactly 30 minutes, then find some reason why she needed to leave. Fine by me. On my 5th day post-surgery, they wheeled me down to see Mia. It was the first time we'd seen each other since the operation. She looked pale and thin, but her eyes were brighter than they'd been in months. We both cried when we saw each other, which was embarrassing with the nurses watching, but whatever. "Thank you," she whispered, holding my hand tight. "I know what this cost you, and I don't mean the kidney." I squeezed her hand back. "Worth it." We didn't talk about our mom during that visit. We just enjoyed being together, alive and healing. One of the nurses took a picture of us, both in wheelchairs, both in hospital gowns, both giving weak thumbs up. It's still my favorite photo of us. A week after the surgery, I was discharged from the hospital and transferred to the recovery facility as planned. It was nice, more like a hotel than a hospital, with private rooms and decent food. The The physical therapist came by daily to help me with exercises to regain my strength. I had a TV, my laptop, and plenty of books. It was peaceful. My mom showed up the day I arrived at the facility, clearly expecting to find some horrible place that would justify her objections. When she saw how nice it was, she seemed almost disappointed. She walked around my room, inspecting everything with a critical eye. "Well, I suppose it's adequate," she finally said, "but you'd still be more comfortable at home." I just shrugged. "I like it here." She sat down in the visitor's chair and pulled out her phone. "I need to take a picture of you for the prayer chain at church. Everyone's been asking." And that's when I snapped. Not in a dramatic way, I was still too sore for big gestures, but something inside me just said, "Enough." "No," I told her. "No pictures for the prayer chain or Facebook or anywhere else." She looked up, surprised. "Don't be ridiculous. People care about you. They want to know you're okay. If they care about me, they can text me directly," I said. "I'm not a prop for your social media updates." My mom's face did that thing where it freezes in a smile, but her eyes get cold. "I don't know why you're being so difficult about everything lately. I'm just trying to keep people informed." "Mom," I said, feeling strangely calm, "this is exactly why I needed space from you. Everything has to be on your terms, for your audience. My medical procedure, my recovery, it's all material for your narrative." She stood up, clutching her purse. "I don't have to listen to this. I've done nothing but try to help you and your sister through this ordeal, and all I get is criticism and ingratitude." As she headed for the door, I called after her. "If you want to visit me again, you need to respect my boundaries. No pictures, no updates to the church ladies, no trying to change my mind about staying here." She didn't respond, just walked out. I expected to feel guilty or anxious after she left, but instead I felt relieved. Setting boundaries was getting easier each time. My dad came by later that evening. He looked uncomfortable, and I knew my mom had told him about our argument. "Your mom is upset," he said, settling into the chair. "I know," I replied, "but I meant what I said." He nodded slowly. "She doesn't understand why you're being so independent suddenly. She's always just wanted what's best for you girls." I looked at my dad, really looked at him. He seemed older somehow, more tired. "Dad, do you really believe that? That everything mom does is for our benefit and not her own?" He didn't answer right away. He stared out the window for a long time before speaking. "Your mother is complicated. She loves you both very much, but she has her own way of showing it." "That's not an answer," I pointed out. He sighed. "No, I suppose it's not." Another long pause. "I should have protected you girls better from her intensity." It was the closest he'd ever come to acknowledging that my mom's behavior was problematic. I reached out and squeezed his hand. "It's not too late to start." The next 2 weeks at the recovery facility were actually kind of nice. I got stronger every day. Friends from work visited. Taylor came by almost daily, bringing me real food and gossip from the outside world. My dad visited regularly too, usually without my mom. We had some good talks, nothing dramatic or life-changing, but honest conversations that felt like the beginning of a different kind of relationship. Mia was discharged from the hospital a few days after me, but went home to our parents' house to recover. We video chatted every day. She looked better each time, less gray, more like herself. She told me our mom was being surprisingly hands-off with her recovery, which we both found suspicious but welcome. "I think she's scared of pushing too hard after what happened with you," Mia said during one of our calls. "She keeps asking if I need anything, then backing off when I say I'm fine. Enjoy it while it lasts," I joked. But part of me hoped maybe, just maybe, my mom was capable of learning. The day before I was scheduled to leave the recovery facility, Dr. Clark came to visit me. She wasn't technically my doctor anymore, but she'd been checking in on both Mia and me throughout our recoveries. "You look good," she said, sitting in the visitor's chair. "How are you feeling?" "Better every day," I told her. "Still sore, still tired easily, but definitely improving." She nodded. "And emotionally? How are things with your family?" I gave her the rundown. Limited contact with my mom, better relationship with my dad, stronger connection with Mia. She listened attentively, occasionally making notes in a small notebook she carried. "I have a proposition for you," she said when I finished. "The hospital runs a support group for organ donors. It's a place where people can talk about the emotional aspects of donation, family pressure, identity issues, relationship changes. Given what you've shared with me, I think you might find it helpful." I was skeptical at first. Support groups seemed like something for people with real problems, not just family drama. But Dr. Clark explained that many donors struggle with similar issues, feeling obligated, dealing with family expectations, navigating the complex emotions that come with literally giving a piece of yourself to someone else. "Think about it," she said as she left. "First meeting is next Thursday at 7. The next day, I checked out of the facility and went back to my apartment. It felt amazing to be in my own space again, surrounded by my own stuff. I was still moving slowly and couldn't do much, but just being home was healing in its own way. My mom called that evening. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "I thought we could have a family dinner this weekend," she said without preamble, "to celebrate both of you being home and recovering well." I hesitated. "I don't know, Mom. I'm still pretty tired." "It would mean a lot to your sister," she added, hitting me right in my weak spot. "She's been asking when she'll get to see you in person." I agreed to come for dinner on Sunday, but made it clear I'd only stay for a couple of hours. After hanging up, I immediately texted Mia. "Did you really ask Mom about seeing me, or is she manipulating me again?" Mia's response came quickly. "Little of both. I do want to see you, but I didn't specifically ask her to arrange anything." Classic mom move. Not exactly a lie, but definitely a strategic use of information. Sunday came, and I drove to my parents' house feeling weirdly nervous. I'd stood up to my mom multiple times now, but being back in her territory felt different. I reminded myself I could leave anytime I wanted. The dinner was surprisingly low key. My mom had made a simple meal, nothing fancy or Instagram worthy like her usual productions. Mia was on the couch when I arrived, looking comfortable in sweatpants and a t-shirt. My dad gave me a quick hug and whispered, "Glad you're here." We ate in the dining room, making awkward small talk about the weather and some TV show my parents had been watching. My mom seemed subdued, almost careful in how she spoke to me. No passive-aggressive comments, no guilt trips, no manipulation tactics I could detect. It was weird. After dinner, Mia and I sat on the back porch while our parents cleaned up. It was a warm evening, the kind where the air feels soft against your skin. "Mom's been different since your blow-up," Mia said quietly. "Less controlling, at least with me." "Really?" I was skeptical. "Like, actually different or just temporarily backing off?" Mia shrugged. "Hard to say, but she hasn't posted a single thing about my transplant on Facebook. No church updates, no neighborhood newsletter mentions, nothing." That That was genuinely surprising. My mom lived for that kind of attention. Maybe she's finally getting it, I said, though I wasn't convinced. Or maybe she's just regrouping, Mia replied with a small smile, planning her next campaign. We both laughed, and it felt good to be able to joke about it together. Before I left that night, my mom pulled me aside. She looked uncomfortable, which was not an expression I was used to seeing on her face. I've been thinking, she said, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant, about what you said at the facility, about boundaries. I waited, not sure where this was going. I don't agree with everything you said, she continued, but I can see that perhaps I've been too involved in certain aspects of your life. It wasn't exactly an apology, but coming from my mom, it was practically a full confession of wrongdoing. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without ruining the moment. Anyway, she said, straightening her shoulders, I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to understand your perspective. Thank you, I said simply. That means a lot. On the drive home, I turned over her words in my mind. Was she genuinely trying to change? Or was this just another manipulation tactic? I honestly couldn't tell. But the fact that I was even questioning it, rather than automatically accepting whatever narrative she presented, felt like progress on my part. The following Thursday, I went to the donor support group Dr. Clark had mentioned. It was held in a community room at the hospital, with about 10 people sitting in a circle of uncomfortable plastic chairs. Some were recent donors like me, still moving carefully and looking tired. Others had donated years ago and came back to share their experiences with newcomers. I didn't say much that first meeting, just introduced myself and mentioned I donated to my sister. But I listened as others shared their stories. The guy who donated to his brother, but now felt like his brother owed him something. The woman whose family had pressured her to donate to an uncle she barely knew. The college student who donated anonymously and was struggling with whether to tell his parents. As I listened, I realized that my situation wasn't unique. Many donors had complicated feelings about their decision, about family dynamics, about the weird mix of pride and resentment that can come with making such a sacrifice. It was validating to hear others express thoughts I'd been afraid to acknowledge even to myself. I went back the next week, and the week after that. Gradually, I started sharing more of my own story. The group never offered easy solutions or platitudes. They just listened and understood in a way that people who haven't been through it can't. 3 months after the surgery, Mia and I met for coffee at a place halfway between our apartments. She looked amazing, healthy color in her cheeks, hair shiny, eyes bright. You'd never know she'd been at death's door just a few months earlier. I've been thinking about what we talked about in the hospital, she said, stirring her latte. About moving away, starting fresh. My heart skipped a hit. Yeah, I found a job opening in Portland, she said, a smile spreading across her face. It's perfect for me. Marketing for a sustainable clothing company. I applied last week and they want to interview me. Mia, that's amazing. I was genuinely thrilled for her. Portland was about 4 hours from our hometown, far enough for independence but close enough to visit. There's more, she said, leaning forward. I looked up music schools in Portland. There's a community program for adult learners. You could teach there, maybe even take some classes yourself. Get back into playing. I stared at her, speechless. The thought of playing piano seriously again hadn't crossed my mind in years. It seemed like something from another lifetime. I'm not saying we have to live together or anything, Mia continued quickly, but we could be in the same city, build our own lives away from mom's influence, support each other. You've really thought this through, I said, still processing. Having a near-death experience clarifies things, she replied with a wry smile. Life's too short to live it for someone else. I didn't give her an answer that day. I told her I needed to think about it, which was true. Moving to a new city, changing jobs, picking up music again, these were big decisions. But the idea took root in my mind and wouldn't let go. A week later, I called Mrs. Yamamoto and asked if I could come by. Her face lit up when she opened the door, and she hugged me gently, mindful of my still, healing body. Her studio looked exactly the same, sunlight streaming through the windows, the familiar smell of rosin and old books. I brought something, I said, holding up the case I hadn't opened in years. I'm not sure I remember how to play, but the body remembers, she said, gesturing for me to open the case, even when the mind forgets. My piano was dusty but intact. Mrs. Yamamoto helped me tune it, then sat at her piano. Something simple to start, she suggested, playing a few introductory notes to a piece I'd learned as a beginner. I positioned the piano under my chin, feeling the familiar weight of it. My first few notes were shaky and uncertain, but as we continued, something awakened in me. Muscle memory, yes, but also joy. Pure, simple joy in creating music. We played for almost an hour, moving from simple pieces to more complex ones as my confidence grew. I was rusty, hitting wrong notes and struggling with techniques that had once been second nature, but it didn't matter. For the first time in years, I was playing for myself, not for anyone's approval. As I drove home, I made my decision. I called Mia that night and told her I was in. We'd move to Portland, start fresh, build the lives we wanted instead of the ones our mother had planned for us. Telling our parents was hard, especially my mom. She cycled through all her usual tactics, guilt, manipulation, fake support that came with conditions. But this time, neither Mia nor I backed down. We were polite but firm. This was happening, with or without her blessing. My dad pulled me aside after our announcement. I'm proud of you, he said quietly, both of you, for finding your own way. It was the first time I could remember him saying he was proud of me for something that wasn't aligned with my mom's wishes. It meant more than I expected. The move happened 3 months later. Mia got the job and I found a position teaching music at an elementary school, with the possibility of classes at the community program she'd mentioned. We found apartments in the same neighborhood, close enough to see each other regularly, but with our own space. My mom's reaction to our move has been predictably complicated. She oscillates between supportive messages and guilt-tripping phone calls. Some days she seems to be genuinely trying to respect our independence. Other days she's back to her old controlling behaviors. I'm learning that she may never fully change, and that's okay. I can still love her while maintaining the boundaries I need. As for me and Mia, we're closer than we've ever been. Having my kidney inside her created a bond that's hard to explain to others. Sometimes she jokes that she's got my musical talent talent now, though evidence suggests otherwise. Her shower singing remains atrocious. I started playing piano regularly again, not with any grand ambitions of a professional career, that ship has sailed, but for the pure enjoyment of it. Sometimes I think about that 16-year-old girl who missed her Juilliard audition because of a family photo session. I wish I could tell her that it's never too late to reclaim the things you love, the things that make you who you are. The donor support group taught me something important. Giving an organ to someone doesn't mean giving up your autonomy. In fact, it can be the catalyst for reclaiming it. My kidney saved Mia's life, but standing up to my mom, setting boundaries, and choosing my own path saved mine. Last week, I got a package in the mail. Inside was a framed photo, the one of Mia and me in our hospital wheelchairs, giving weak thumbs up with our matching hospital gowns and IV tubes. Mia had written on the back, "The day we both got a second chance." It sits on my mantle now as a reminder that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most necessary changes, and that healing comes in many forms.